That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Tyler Perry's Divorce in the Black, the 25th film from Tyler Perry, which Amazon Prime decided to punish us with on July 11th, 2024.
I had no intention of watching or reviewing this film because I knew what to expect. I've seen all of his movies, but we reviewed Mea Culpa, A Fall from Grace, A Jazzman's Blues. What's the other one?
Homecoming.
Medea Homecoming. So I didn't want to seem like all I want to do is rag on Tyler Perry films, but we received so many comments, DMs, emails about this movie. And for that reason, I felt compelled to review it. And this is a train wreck of a movie. The actual title is Tyler Perry's Divorce in the Black, but I don't know that anybody would want to. He doesn't need to put his name on it. Nobody else wants to be attached to this movie. No.
We get it.
What is it about? Ava's husband Dallas leaves her heartbroken as he abandons their marriage. What's your pull quote?
Yet another narrative metastasized beneath the ineptitude of Tyler Perry's quill. Divorce in the Black is an exploitative odyssey of the black community and soap opera cliches. The phrase, "it gets better," does not apply to the development of Perry's filmmaking abilities.
Mine. Asinine, tedious, and reckless are a few words to describe Tyler Perry's latest romance drama, a genre he seems to have no personal familiarity with.
Or passion for, or interest in. You know, what's the phrase, God doesn't give us more than we can handle? At what point will the limit...
He gave Tyler too much. Okay, the story is very simple. Meagan Good plays Ava, and her husband Dallas is played by Cory Hardrict. Hardrict, I'm sorry.
The ex, Mr. Mowry?
Oh!
Yeah, he used to be with Tia Mowry, right?
Did he?
I believe so.
I don't follow that.
Till recently.
They're a little questionable.
Just like Mr. Lawson used to be with somebody else.
Well, we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
Anyway, so Meagan Good is married to Cory, and their relationship is on the rocks when one day he tells her, "I want a divorce." She becomes upset, goes to stay with her parents, who are played by Richard Lawson and Debbi Morgan. Mm-hmm. And after being with her parents for a week, she's a new woman. She goes back home, signs the divorce papers, and then this is like an hour into the film.
Yeah.
When now we see that he's harassing her, her family, her friends. It all culminates with Meagan Good killing Cory. The end.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Within that, she develops a relationship within the course of a week with some guy she knew from when she was a teenager.
Oh yeah, the course of this narrative is basically over a week and a half, if that.
Okay, there's nothing about this film I liked. The writing, the cinematography, all of it's a mess. But I will say, if a person is curious, I don't recommend watching this movie. I do recommend watching the opening scene.
That is the only energy apparent. Mm-hmm.
It's probably the wildest thing I've seen in a while. Because the film opens with Meagan and Cory at a funeral, and we realize that it's the funeral for one of Cory's brothers.
His oldest.
And Richard Lawson, Meagan's dad, is a preacher. And it's his church, and he's presiding over the funeral. And things go left real quick. But even if, before things really go left, we can tell something's not right because Cory is very detached from Meagan. He doesn't want her affection. There's a lady sitting in the same pew as them who's just mean-mugging everyone. Mm-hmm. So we know there's an issue. And then Richard Lawson, which I just could not believe, his character presiding over this funeral is being so disrespectful because basically he's saying, your brother wasn't shit, your entire family ain't shit, y'all are just running around terrorizing everyone. That's why your brother's probably in hell. And so let's take this as an example of how to live a better life.
And he uses a story from the Bible about someone coming back from hell to tell others not to live like him.
So of course the mother, which I would have done the same thing, gets up and shuts it all down. And then that's already hot. But then she proceeds to
take off the borrowed clothes.
Well, at first I thought she was going to fight Debbi Morgan.
Same.
Because then Debbi Morgan's talking shit, talking about you're going to hell and you're a heathen and whatever. But she takes off the clothes, the mother of the deceased, because she's like, I don't need your handouts. You people think that we need you. We don't need shit from you. But the pièce de résistance is, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. It works.
That mother tells her remaining sons, there are 3 of them total, including Cory, to grab the deceased. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I'm like, no, she is not about to have them take the casket out. Oh, no, she does one better.
Oh, they snatch him right out of there.
They snatch the dead body out the casket and drag him out the church to throw him into the bed of a truck.
The rest of the attendees are screaming.
Oh, my God. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen something that wild. I'm excited for the new Lee Daniels film called It's with Glenn Close.
With Glenn Close.
What's it called? It starts with an R. Who else is in it?
Oh God!
Don't worry about it.
Everybody's in it.
I'll put it up. Monique is in it.
Andra Day.
I feel like
Tasha Smith.
I feel like the opening scene of this film feels like it would have worked in that film.
Well, yeah, that's a very over-the-top film, and I cannot wait to talk about that one. But
okay, I have so many notes. We just need to go through them, and then hopefully they overlap with your stuff. First of all, my problem, the way Tyler writes the Bertrand family, so Cory's family, his mom and his remaining siblings, he writes them as so like backwater, which is funny because then you thought the mom reminded you of Stacey Lane Matthews.
Remember when Stacey Lane did Monique in Precious?
For the Snatch Game?
Yeah, but Ursula O. Robinson is her name. And
She also reminded me of the lady from the 40-year-old version.
Rhoda Blank, yeah.
Yeah.
They're characterized in such a demeaning way as like these poor black folks that are kind of evil incarnate. They're just assholes, and it's like there are no redeeming qualities about them. Because in that opening scene, we come to kind of have a very different. I think Lawson is out of pocket for sure in that, but we come to have a very different understanding of what is really going on in that scene.
I say, you know what? So asinine, relating to my pull quote, I feel like Tyler Perry doesn't know how to write like real people, real professions. They're always generic. Like, I'm a lawyer, but you're never going to see me litigate or work on evidence or anything, put a case together. In this instance, Megan's character is like a bank professional, and her best friend,
Rona,
is a financial advisor. That's what her plaque on her desk says. And she has a huge office like on the second level of the bank building. But then she's down on the floor like she's like managing the tellers. It doesn't make sense.
There's only one moment of bank speak between these two women when Rona tells her like, I got to get down there and whip these tellers into shape because none of them want to work.
But so much about the narrative is ridiculous. I mean, it's just asinine. Then tedious. I feel like Tyler Perry just keeps writing the same stories but with like little tweaks to it. Mm-hmm. So this downtrodden woman who's suffering from a pretty limited range of issues, like either being cheated on, being verbally, physically abused, sexually abused, and dealing with poverty. It's always like 2 of the 3. And then there's usually like the voice of reason, which in a Medea movie will be Medea. Like Medea always has that one scene where she sits the woman down and explains to her how she can do better and what she shouldn't tolerate. But in this film, Medea is kind of like the Richard Lawson character, and that little monologue that Medea gives is kind of given over the course of 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it feels so drawn out.
Yes, I agree.
Then reckless. At the core of this story, whatever the intention was, I don't know what the messaging's supposed to be, but at the core of it, we have a woman in a very complex, abusive relationship with a man who is severely mentally ill. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's reckless to write these stories and make them so basic and dumb. Like, why can't he consult with anybody, psychologists, and like try to craft stories that maybe could be helpful? Because I know he used to say like, I'm making stories or making films and plays for a community that never had a voice. And that may have been true 20 years ago.
It is true. It was true.
But now it's like you're showing modern people with like problems that are related in such an archaic way that like, who's gonna watch this movie and think, I see myself in her, and I'm gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna lure my abusive husband to my house so I can kill him.
I'm gonna glue on eyelashes and take vengeance. I think at one point there was really some power underneath Tyler Perry providing a platform for black women with some decent to sometimes pretty good. I think For Color Girls is actually, I think that was
Yeah, but it's not his. There's,
He adapted it from
a novel by Push by Safari, right? Push by Sapphire?
no, when
Or I'm thinking of Precious.
you're thinking of Precious. Yes.
I gotta cut that out.
You mean for colored girls who
The play for colored girls who committed suicide when the
when the
rainbow's
wind
not
rainbow is
enough.
not enough. Yeah. And I think in the progression of black cinema, I think that he is a powerful figure, but he has never really progressed beyond a certain point. And I think that he is a trailblazer, but has somehow forgotten that, filmmaking is also a community.
I'm so tired of like every review of Tyler Perry. It's like trying to excuse him, trying to validate what he's done, but it's like he's a shitty filmmaker. He needs to give Meagan Good was on Club Shay Shay talking about Tyler Perry has paid her she made the most she's ever made on this film, so she felt valued.
She's compensated.
And I totally respect her feeling valued. And then Cory was on The Breakfast Club and said the same shit. So that's real, that's valid, that's great. But then it's like, are you really being valued when someone puts you in a shitty movie? Like, paying Cicely Tyson $1 million to be in his film. But it's like, this icon, this legend, like you put her in a film that's kind of laughable. I mean, not as bad as this, but Louis Gossett Jr., Angela Bassett, all these people, Alfred Woodard, you put them in these mediocre to very poor movies. What's that legacy? Yes, Meagan Good got paid the most she's ever been paid in this film. But what legitimate filmmaker is going to look at this? Because it was, for a period, I think, #1 on Amazon Prime globally. So I guess a hit. What kind of work is this going to get her? How is this helping her career?
Again, it's like you're compensating people for what they're worth, which is great. And, that is certainly a talking point that's positive about this. But at the same time, don't you want to write black women roles that are also favorable, that are also memorable, that also will lead them to awards glory?
He shouldn't be writing them. He should be giving opportunities to women of color. Right?
Right.
He should he shouldn't be writing these stories at this point.
You have a whole studio. You have all these resources. Yeah.
Speaking of the studio, I thought the cinematography was atrocious. Everything looks like we're on a set. They're poorly lit, weird angles. There's only one shot that I thought looked nice, which I'll get to. But overall, this movie looks like y'all could have slapped it on Tubi.
It feels very slapdash. The cinematographer, it's his first film, Michael Watson. You got to cut your teeth somewhere. I guess.
Okay, I got to get through this. I believe Tina Knowles divorced Richard Lawson because she knew he was going to be in this movie. She must have read this script and thought, I cannot.
Well, that was just last year. Seeing him and he gets to be a little violent in it, I was thinking back to his Black Fist days during the blaxploitation era.
At one point, Cory is arguing with Meagan and telling her, I heard those people laughing at us when we were leaving the church. They weren't laughing, they were screaming because you had dragged a dead body out of the casket.
They were howling. They were not laughing.
Oh, gosh. So after the funeral, he gets mad, storms out. Meagan goes to look for him, and he's at a bar, drunk. He wants to drive. Then his brother and he get into a fight over not drunk driving. And that's where we're introduced to the character Benji.
Played by Joseph Lee Anderson.
This very handsome, very hulking figure who knew Meagan from back in the day when she lived 90 minutes away from Atlanta, which is where her parents lived.
Yeah, that 90 minutes gap we need to talk about.
We do. So the way, this sounds horrible, but the way Megan's character's acting, I kept thinking I can see why your man is tired of your ass. I can see why he throws you around every now and then. She just there's no excuse for violence, but it's just the way she's written, she just seems so stupid and annoying and antagonistic. Your father shamed your family, your husband's family, at your husband's brother's funeral that he was presiding over. And so he's upset and leaves. And then what do? Show up, get in the car with him, and start telling him how mean he is.
Yes. It makes...
I was surprised he didn't slap her in the truck.
Ava is such a frustrating, silly character. It's just demeaning. She's an eternal victim / martyr. And after a while, if you know somebody like this in your own life, you kind of have to distance yourselves from them because it's I can't take dealing with this drama.
So after that, they go to dinner with Megan's best friend and her husband, who happens to be Cory's best friend.
Jim.
And it's 5:30, we know because Tyler's pointing at the clock. And she says, I need 45 minutes to get ready. I'll be down by 6:15, dinner's at 7, we're good. So then we see the clock fast forward to 6:05. So she got ready 10 minutes faster than she said. She gets downstairs and Cory's gone. This fool went to the restaurant by himself, left her at home. So then we see him show up and the two friends are like, where's Meagan? Well, I left her. She had me waiting too long. And then he causes a scene at the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he asks for a divorce. I'm just so confused, like, why... I don't even know why Jim tolerates Cory. Cory is mentally ill and violent. He has anger management issues, and Jim seems like a very reasonable, professional, even-keeled man.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you even... Like, would you even deal with him?
No, well, casting problem. Cory Hardrict doesn't seem... He doesn't look like this kind of person, I guess. He doesn't really fit the role.
He's like a violent country... I mean, he's like Ike Turner.
Yes, but we see him dressed and styled and like living in this beautiful home. I'm not sure what he does for work, even though at one point he says he has to get up and go there.
But then we're told that Meagan pays all the bills.
There's just too many pieces that don't make sense for this characterization to work, I guess is what I'm trying to articulate. But also Meagan Good she looks a little too good to be dealing with such abuse on a daily basis for 20 years.
Well, I wouldn't say good. I would say that she looks too put together.
She looks too, yes. I was trying to make a pun on her name.
Oh, sure. Yeah, she's too put together. And then she has this career and this beautiful home and this man and family. It very much feels like mea culpa with Kelly Rowland's husband's, who's supposed to be like an out-of-work anesthesiologist, whose family is vile. And it's like, why is she tolerating... Why was she paying for the mom's chemotherapy who didn't need chemotherapy?
Dallas's mama and his brothers act like the bank robber Ma Barker and her kids.
Or they acted like Rasputin's, the Lattimores in Norbit. Mm-hmm. That's how they were acting. I mean, it was almost comical at the point later in the film when they shoot and beat up Richard Lawson. One of them you hear in the background saying, I choked the shit out of him. Yeah. It's like, it was more Norbit than... something that we should like take seriously. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, that would have an actual dramatic effect.
After the dinner, when Cory asks for a divorce, of course her best friend drives Meagan home. And when she gets home, she's like, I wasn't going to give this to you, but I feel like you need it. And her homegirl pulls out some sheets of paper, folded up, and says, I wrote down every shitty thing he's done to you since you met. I mean, is that a good friend? I don't know. Like, bitch, you could have helped me after the 8th bullet point, because we finally do see that it's like pages.
3 pages.
Of bullet points.
I thought it would have been a great moment if she pulled out like a pamphlet.
With pictures of like black eyes.
And the copies of police reports.
And charged credit cards. And yeah, that was so stupid. Okay, Richard Lawson is a preacher in, I guess, the country, because he lives on a farm. And I wrote down, why was he dressed like Lenny from A Mice and Men? He looked crazy in this movie.
The wardrobe on Mr. Lawson in particular is very unflattering.
Of course, we get the scene where the broken woman is sort of reflecting, and it seems like she's going to make some good decisions, even though we're only 30 minutes into the film. Mm-hmm. So she goes for a jog. And as she's jogging, she's having flashbacks of the good, like the good old days with Cory, which I thought was funny because... in all of those flashback scenes, she's wearing the same wig. So it's like, when were these... y'all been together for 20 years. Like, what?
Well, nothing is measured correctly.
No.
We only meet Dallas on 10, and he stays on 10. And as being just out of control with his behavior.
Because every dramatic film like this where you have an abusive husband, they always know how to play the role around some people that I'm like I'm the perfect husband and I'm only abusive to her when I'm out of sight. But like you said, he is on 10 at screaming in the bank, the grocery store, like just the restaurant, everywhere.
And then we get more than one character saying, I've never seen him like this before. Well, we have. We just saw that 10 minutes ago. It just doesn't make any sense.
Okay. So somehow Debbi Morgan, Megan's mom, now that Meagan is staying at her parents' house for the week. Somehow she finds all the shitty things Cory did to her and reads them. And then we get a really awkward scene where Debbi's just crying, like basically saying like, how did I fail you?
Right.
She goes, baby, what did I do wrong? To make you think that you should be with this man. I just thought that poor lady's acting was wasted on this stupid
Debbi
movie.
Morgan's she was wasted.
Oh, and then you reminded me that Meagan Good has worked with Debbi Morgan before.
In Eve's Bayou, yeah.
In Eve's Bayou, which is a really good movie.
Much better, yes.
So then they're crying, and who walks in the door? Richard Lawson, looking like Lenny. And he's like, what's going on? And Debbi knows she can't tell Richard all the horrible things Cory's done to Meagan because he'll kill him. So what does she say? Oh, we're both on our period. And Richard looks down at her and goes, Jean, you still having a period? I thought that was rude.
But also during this segment of the film, she's only with her parents for a week, and she's all ready to let her new life begin after a 20-year marriage.
The day after, so apparently it's a Saturday that they went to dinner and Cory says, I want a divorce. And then she drives overnight to her parents' house. The next day, not even 24 hours after being told that her husband wants a divorce, her dad tries to set her up with Benji.
Yep. And then she's sitting on the couch telling her parents, I just can't wait to be over this.
The thing that happened 12 hours ago?
Yep. Like, okay. Sure.
Well, first of all, I wrote down that this movie makes Fatal Affair seem like Fatal Attraction.
With Nia Long.
With Nia Long and Omar Epps. Okay, so then so now it's Sunday. Of course, Richard's at church. And then we get like a praise break with this awkward song the choir's singing. And I wanted to give a shout out to the one white lady in the congregation.
Yep, you just see her out of the corner of your eye, but they're like, oh,
I thought that was cute.
They ushered her into this scene.
Then they get home, and Richard Lawson is showing Meagan old home videos.
He's put together a montage.
Okay, first of all, it's VHS cassette, and he's made a montage on VHS cassette of all these moments. And basically, it's two parts. It's when BC before Cory, and then AD after divorce. So before she met Cory, she was happy. She ran track. She was always smiling. The young lady they cast to play young Meagan couldn't look more different from her. That just felt like y'all didn't even try. And then after she meets Cory, her dad says, you never smile. But I'm thinking like all the scenes with her, again, she looks like same wig on, looks the same age, but they've been together for 20 years.
But wait.
Like there's no care taken in measuring what these images look like. And
they show a scene from her wedding where her mother-in-law snatched the flowers out of her hand.
She slapped those flowers out of her hand.
And why would anybody be surprised about what's going on currently? When Debbi Morgan's screaming, what did I do? You didn't ever try to check up on me after that, because clearly you married into this a raggedy union that was toxic.
So now that she's with her parents and like letting her new life begin, they go to the carnival and she bumps into Benji. And the one beautiful shot in the film was Meagan and Benji walk to his pickup truck, which is parked like in the woods. And so we get a really beautiful shot of some trees with the moonlight and the mist. And I thought that was the one positive thing about this film. But then we immediately slide into some nonsense because they're sitting in the back of his truck, Meagan and Benji. And Meagan says, because they're drinking brown liquor, taking it straight to the head.
They're drinking whiskey, yeah.
And she goes, he's telling her like, you need to slow down. She goes, no, I want to be drunk. And then says, I want you to make love to me.
Did you think, I thought of Halle Berry in Monsters Ball.
And and of course he's trying to be a gentleman, like, listen, I don't want to be like some rebound. And if we do have sex, I want to mean something. So of course Benji's supposed to be a nice guy. I thought that was crazy. Meagan is just like, this character's crazy.
She's incapable of making good decisions, it feels like, because then she wakes up a little groggy in the bed of his pickup, and she's like, oh, thanks for stopping me from doing something I'd regret. And then he goes, can I give you my phone number? And she goes, no, Benji, no.
Oh, it's also this scene where we find out that Bertrand brothers had beat Benji up and put him in the hospital.
Actually, we learned that from the first scene because one of the brothers says,
You're right.
Do we have to put you in the hospital again?
Yeah, he alludes to it, and then in this scene we learn how and why, and then we learn that Benji used to be a little scrawny guy, but then now he's this hulking man who's like a wrestler, so they stop picking on him. But it's also in this scene where he tells her, well, prior to that, he says whenever he needs to like clear, he brings up some singer named Chris Stapleton, who I don't know who that was. But then in the truck scene, when she wants to have sex and he shoots her down, then we hear the song, which felt a little jarring. It's a beautiful, like it's a nice song with a beautiful voice, but
it did. Also, in part of this advanced courtship that's going on between them, we learned he's also divorced and I think has a kid, and he's referring to her like. About, oh yeah, I felt the same way about relationships after I was divorced. She's not divorced yet. Her husband...
This happened 2 days ago. I haven't signed papers. I haven't... So, one of Cory's brothers sends him a picture of Meagan with Benji at the carnival. Mm-hmm. So he gets mad and shows up at her job now that she's back in Atlanta. He storms in this PCB bank, which was clearly fabricated on Tyler Perry Studios' lot, which was so weird. That bank, the front door was on the street. Mm-hmm. Also, her best friend's house, what's her name?
Rona.
Rona's house is also like on the street. I thought that was weird. But anyway, Cory shows up and makes a fool out of himself. He is shouting. And then Rona at one point says, you think I give a F about this job in front of everyone? Isn't she like the manager?
Well, she's certainly Meagan Good's boss because that's who's approving her time off.
That dynamic was so like ill-conceived.
But where you would see her nameplate is just this financial advisor.
So,
and then after that scene, she drags Meagan Good up, and they have this awkward, secret conversation on the stairs. Like they don't go all the way up the stairs.
No, and then we cut to her signing her divorce papers
in an interesting dress choice.
She's dressed like she's going to the club, mm-hmm. which I'm assuming is like her trying to celebrate. I don't know. But Cory's lawyer tells her, like, are you sure you don't want a lawyer present? Like, I would advise that you do have counsel review this. She's like, no, I read it. I just want this over with. Let me sign it. And I thought for sure there'd be more to it because when she's signing it, the lawyer is kind of like not fully opening the pages. And then he kind of has a look on his face. And then after she's done, Cory kind of has a snicker on his face. I was 100% sure that they had changed the divorce settlement papers to show that maybe he gets the house.
You know why they didn't?
But there's no mention of that.
You know why they didn't do that? Because Tyler Perry would have had to think a little more to incorporate that. Mm-hmm.
She goes to a divorce party. Like, Rona throws her a divorce party. They have...
Where Benji is, like, again, this is where it really becomes apparent, like, y'all just driving back and forth 90 minutes between Atlanta and here in a short space of time.
They have this party, and guess who shows up? Cory. And then he wants to come in. Jim tells him no, and then he leaves. I don't know why. Anyway, I thought Benji was corny, because he tells Meagan, man, it was by the grace of God I didn't sleep with you in that truck.
He is Cornball Collins. And again, he's had his own relationships in the 17 years since they met. But it's like, you're a man that looks like this with a farm that's just waiting for Meagan Good. Okay.
Even though he already has a kid, so mm-hmm. he hasn't been saving himself for her. Meagan mentions like 3 times, I'm almost 40. You're 37, girl. Like you're not like turning 40 next week.
You are not almost 40. No. Her mentioning her age so much was reminding me of that one annoying white woman on the Love is Blind first season, the 34-year-old.
Yes. After after the divorce party, she takes Benji to her home. That's now hers because she got it in the divorce settlement. And they have sex. He spends the night. She wakes up in the morning and like tries to like sneak out on him. But he's asleep in her house. She gets dressed to go to work, goes downstairs, and guess who's eating cereal? Cory. Mm-hmm. Don't know how he got in because she changed the locks. And then instead of calling the police because she...
Yeah, I think that's why we're both screaming at the screen, like, call the cops. Call the cops. You have to have documentation of this because this behavior is going to continue.
Instead of that, he's arguing with her, and then Cory knows that there's, like, Benji's probably upstairs. And he's like, well, I'm gonna go upstairs and take a shower in my house. And she just follows him upstairs quietly.
Yeah.
Knowing that Benji's up there, knowing that Cory's violent, she doesn't even try to warn him.
You need to ring the alarm, girl.
Right. And then what happens? Cory jumps on Benji in the bed, but of course Benji, like, knocks his ass out. And then I thought the most ridiculous part of that is little Meagan Good, drags Cory's lifeless body, well, unconscious body, out of the house, down the stairs, out the front door.
Doesn't call the cops.
Throws him in the car, slaps him, and says, don't you come back here.
Goes to work. Before she's even to work, he's already stationed outside her job watching it. He's just had his ass handed to him. And he still beats her to work?
Ugh.
How's that happen?
And also poisoned all of Benji's animals.
Somewhere. So Benji goes home, finds the sheriff's there. Richard Lawson has seen the collapsed animals dying. So Benji calls Meagan Good. She's at work. And then they have this long conversation and I think I was screaming at the screen, like, the first thing you say is, my animals are poisoned, probably by your ex. Where are you? Go to safety. Because that's crazy.
Yeah. I thought it was funny, though, all the dead animals, because they're all kinds of animals. Cow, sheep, dog, cat, indifferent. And they're all laying next to each other. Mm-hmm. So did all the animals, like, as they were dying, just come together in this one patch of this big-ass farm? In
a menagerie.
That was so stupid.
So anyway, then Richard Lawson decides to drive to Atlanta, and then Debbi Morgan is grocery shopping when she finds out about all this. And somehow...
well, Cory knew she'd be there because he says, oh, I see you still go grocery shopping every Tuesday.
I know, but if you break it down, like, he started the morning off terrorizing Ava. Then he goes to stake out her job. There are sequences. He has to be told to leave there. And then he drives back an hour and a half to terrorize Debbi Morgan in the afternoon.
Right. Yeah, the commute. The miles. And I mean, I know gas is cheaper in the South.
like the hours starring Nicole Kidman.
Cory's yelling at Debbi Morgan in the grocery store, and there's this little white girl cashier just standing there, and I just thought that was so funny. Like, y'all quick to call the police on black folks, and then now that you need to call the police, she's just standing there, like, playing with...
No,
and she's an employee.
She was by the cake.
She was by
boxes.
the baked ingredients aisle. But anyway, Cory grabs Debbi and is screaming at her.
Mm-hmm. For what purpose, I'm not sure.
And then, of course, she runs out, and that's when I thought the funniest scene is because Richard finds out that from someone at the church that Cory approached Debbi at the grocery store and manhandled her. Mm-hmm. So he gets his guns and leaves, and Debbi can't stop him. So then she calls Meagan. And Meagan's driving. Also, Meagan is too calm in every scene.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
She talks like this, like, yeah, well, I guess, like, just too calm for what's happening. And her mother is screaming.
Debbi
Dallas grabbed me at the grocery store, but I didn't tell your daddy. But someone at the grocery store told your daddy at church, and now he's mad. He got all his guns. He's going to go kill him. I can't stop him. Like,
and then the subtitles read, like, Gene screaming indistinctly.
Yeah. He gets to Cory's mother's house. Stacey Lane Matthews, mm-hmm. and they whoop his ass and shoot him in the leg. Uh-huh. And then Richard Lawson's in the hospital. So then Meagan calls Cory after she finds out that her dad was beaten up. And she calls Cory to antagonize him. Mm-hmm. She goes, yeah, I'm with Benji. He's coming to my house. We're going to have sex. He's so good. He's better than you could ever be. He makes me feel so good in a way you could never do.
She goes, you're the worst. And it's like, well, actually he's second best because, you know, he's still not that far down.
At one point, she tells her friends, because he shows up at Rona's house after the restraining order's been placed. And that's when Cory tells Rona, like, oh, my best friend, Jim, your husband, you know he was cheating on you with some lady named Kelly. I can't believe that they didn't kick his ass out, like, call the police immediately. They all just stand there and let him be crazy.
You know who's dumb? Jim, for being friends with this fool. And you know who's also dumb? Rona, for being with Jim, who's friends with this fool. Like, none of it makes sense.
So asinine, again. Meagan trying to lure Cory to her house. For what purpose? To kill him? So she calls him over. He comes over irate. Like he's like a rabid animal. And he has a gun. And she's still talking shit. And I was fully expecting him to shoot her point blank in the head.
I mean, you don't know how he's really going to respond, but then
he beats her up pretty badly.
And then she's like, now I have the bruises I need. And then she has her own little shotgun story.
Then she calls the police or 911 and just says, my husband's here. He has a restraining order. He's beating me up, and hangs up. And then she pulls out like a sawed-off shotgun and shoots and kills him.
It's very.
That plan was so stupid.
That's also very. Immediately, I thought of An Eye for an Eye with Sally Fields, where she has to lure Kiefer Sutherland onto her property so she can kill him.
Yes. So then, of course, at the end, the ambulance come, and she the next day, I think she's at the hospital seeing her dad. Her dad gets released. She confronts the Bertrands and says,
they're just hanging out in the hospital hallway.
And Meagan basically checks them in her flat ass tone, like, I already showed you what I can do, so let's call it like even. Okay. Well, first of all, the trailer shows like 3 times that there's like a boiling teapot scene, not unlike, I think it's Medea's family reunion, where she keeps telling the broken woman who's being abused, like, just grab this hot pot of grits. In the trailer for this movie, it looks like at one point Megan's going to grab I don't know. It's not in this movie, so I don't know what that was. Maybe in the end they thought it was too violent. My final note is, do you think this is Tyler Perry's worst film?
No, actually.
What do you think's worse?
I think...
do you think Mea Culpa's worse?
No, it isn't. Definitely not good. But I think I felt less offended about this than I did Temptation, Confessions of a Marriage Counselor.
Oh,
which
well, I was more offended, yeah.
Yes, with Brandy, who has AIDS. Like anybody who tries to find sexual fulfillment is doomed
punished with
AIDS. But the Lance Gross character in that is very much the same, cut from the same cloth as Dallas. Like he's just... Like, there's nothing redeeming.
I'm tired of talking about this movie. I think it goes without saying that I would give this 0.5 out of 5.
Yep, and but we have 2 other Tyler Perry films in the can already, so there's more to come. But 0.5, it is the lowest of low.
To all the people who asked us to watch this movie, y'all ain't shit. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.